Is it possible that a single 35-second video, uploaded without an official statement, without agency confirmation, without a single word from the artist himself, could shake millions of global fans and alter how the world views the biggest K-pop tour of 2026? Or are we, instead, witnessing the moment when the boundary between a group concert and Jungkook's solo era begins to blur slowly yet inevitably? That question may sound exaggerated to those outside the BTS orbit, but for ARMY, a fandom long accustomed to reading meaning in silence, symbols, and gestures, it feels far too real to ignore. Because in the world of BTS, nothing is ever truly accidental. And when things feel too quiet ahead of a major announcement, history has repeatedly shown that such silence is often a sign of an approaching storm. It all began not with a grand announcement, not with a big music press conference, and not with a Weverse livestream that usually serves as the official stage for every major BTS decision. Instead, the explosion came from a simple post on X, uploaded by the fan account at @DailyJpraise, long known as a space for visual appreciation of Jungkook, rather than a source of rumors or speculation. Yet on January 6, 2026, the account posted something different. A roughly 35-second compilation video featuring clips of Jungkook's performances from various eras, accompanied by a short sentence that now feels like the trigger of mass unease. You just never know what look Jungkook's gonna serve on the 2026 tour. On the surface, the sentence appeared light, even playful. But for ARMY, who have spent years watching Jungkook evolve not only as a performer, but as a symbol of transformation within BTS, the wording felt like a subtle clue that was too specific to dismiss. Why emphasize what look Jungkook's gonna serve? Why not BTS? Why focus on a single name, a single figure, a single body on stage? These questions emerged almost simultaneously with the surge in views, which surpassed 20,000 in a short time, accompanied by thousands of likes and reposts that showed just how quickly the unease spread across time zones. The video showcased Jungkook in various stage personas that have become iconic chapters in BTS history. There was Jungkook in a gold-patterned shirt and sunglasses, radiating the aura of a classic superstar. There was Jungkook in a plain black t-shirt, minimalist, almost without accessories, yet precisely because of that, highlighting his vocals and expression. And there was Jungkook in an edgy black outfit, bold chain necklaces, tattoos clearly visible, as if challenging anyone still trying to confine him to the image of the innocent magne from a decade ago. The montage moved rapidly, almost without pause, creating the impression that Jungkook was not merely changing from era to era, but possessed multiple versions of himself, ready to emerge at any moment. At this point, excitement began to shift into something more complex. The replies were filled with comments that on one hand sounded like ordinary praise, but on the other carried much deeper emotional layers. Hot plus sexy plus handsome plus beautiful plus perfect Jungkook, wrote one user, not merely as admiration, but as an assertion that Jungkook now exists at a level nearly undefinable by a single word. Another wrote, "He is preparing a new look and a new style just for us," a sentence that at first glance seemed sweet, yet upon rereading contained a bold assumption that there was a special preparation underway, something being crafted for us, as if Jungkook were designing a more personal experience than a typical group tour. Not all reactions, however, were euphoric. Amid the waves of praise and anticipation, critical voices also emerged, questioning certain style choices from the past, including hairstyles considered unsuitable or too extreme. Rather than dampening the hype, these differing opinions only reinforced one thing: Jungkook is no longer a figure passively accepted, but someone whose decisions are debated with an intensity usually seen only when an artist stands on the brink of a major transition. This commotion did not arise in a vacuum. It came at a highly crucial moment for BTS. In July 2025, all 7 members RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin V, and Jungkook officially announced their comeback via a Weverse livestream, confirming their 5th album and a 2026 world tour that would mark their first major project after all members completed mandatory military service. The announcement was immediately covered by international media outlets, from Teen Vogue to USA Today, framing BTS's return as a global cultural event rather than merely a musical comeback. The album, scheduled for release in February 2026 with pre-orders beginning on January 16, was already enough to trigger mass euphoria. But the announcement that tour details, including dates and cities, would be revealed on January 14, 2026 at midnight KST placed ARMY in a state of full alert. Every post, every gesture, every video clip was now read as a potential clue. Within this context, the At Daily's praise video was no longer seen as nostalgic content, but as an early signal of something larger. Here is where the narrative began to shift from mere stage styling toward a far more sensitive question. Is Jungkook positioning himself as the center of gravity for the 2026 tour? Is the strong visual focus on him simply a natural strategy given his popularity? Or does it indicate that the 2026 stage will grant Jungkook more space as an individual? These questions were never voiced outright, yet they pulsed beneath the surface of ARMY discussions, fueling curiosity mixed with anxiety that Jungkook's history within BTS lends weight to such speculation. Since debuting in 2013, he has been known as the maknae who gradually yet consistently expanded the scope of his role. From main vocalist, he evolved into a versatile performer, a dominant dancer, and eventually a solo artist with his 2023 album Golden, which showcased musical and visual maturity. That album was not only commercially successful, but also solidified Jungkook's image as someone capable of standing alone without losing his BTS identity. Thus, as the 2026 tour is framed as a full reunion after the military hiatus, an intriguing paradox emerges. How does one balance the narrative of group unity with the reality that one member stands at an extraordinary peak of global spotlight? This is where ARMY's panic becomes palpable, not purely negative, but as a reflection of love intertwined with fear of change. Because for many fans, BTS is about 7, not 1. And yet, they cannot ignore the reality that Jungkook now carries a magnetism capable of dramatically reshaping stage dynamics. Is that 35-second video truly just a compilation of past styles, or an unofficial teaser testing public reaction? Is the focus on outfits, tattoos, and accessories merely visual nostalgia, or a hint that Jungkook will appear with a more defined, bolder, perhaps more individual identity on the upcoming tour? These questions linger without clear answers, and that is precisely what gives them power. In modern entertainment, speculation often speaks louder than facts. ARMY around the world waits for an official announcement from Bigot Music. One thing becomes clear. This unease is not about fear of losing BTS, but about readiness to accept a new version of Jungkook that may redefine what it means to be part of the biggest group in the world. And if a single non-provocative video can spark such massive discussion, the question now becomes far more urgent. What will happen when the 2026 stage truly opens, the lights come on, and Jungkook steps into the spotlight? At a certain point, speculation stops being a whisper and turns into a collective conviction. The question now is no longer whether ARMY is speculating too far, but whether the public is picking up on signals that were deliberately left hanging in the air. Because the longer that video circulates, the harder it becomes to dismiss it as mere visual nostalgia. There are too many details that feel on target, too much focus concentrated on Jungkook, and too strong an emotional reaction for it to be considered a coincidence. Within the digital spaces where ARMY interacts, the tone of discussion has begun to shift. If on the first day the post went viral, the conversation was dominated by visual admiration and anticipation of style, the days that followed introduced a new layer: analysis. Fans began comparing video clips, matching them to specific performance eras, and questioning why certain styles appeared more dominant than others. Jungkook with an edgy aura, exposed tattoos, and aggressive stage gestures seemed to appear more frequently than the cute or playful version of Jungkook. For some ARMY, this was a clue too obvious to ignore. The question then evolved. If this is only about a BTS tour, why does the visual narrative feel so personal? Why is the focus on individual transformation rather than group synergy? Throughout BTS's history, tour promotions have always emphasized togetherness, the strength of 7 members as one unit. Yet this time, even before official tour details have been released, Jungkook's name is already dominating global conversation. Not because of any official statement, but because of visual fragments that have ignited the collective imagination. This phenomenon is further reinforced by its timing. The 2026 World Tour is no ordinary tour. It is a symbol of BTS's return after a long hiatus due to mandatory military service, a moment many music industry analysts predict will become one of the biggest entertainment events of the decade. In such a context, even the smallest move carries strategic weight. And when one member, especially Jungkook, receives attention that feels disproportionate, it is only natural for questions to arise about the creative direction being constructed. It is here that the term a disguised solo concert began to circulate, initially as a joke, then gradually as a serious topic of discussion. No one is truly accusing BTS of turning into a Jungkook solo project, yet the idea that the 2026 tour might give him a far larger share of the stage is increasingly seen as plausible, especially when considering Jungkook's track record after the album Golden, where he proved that his name alone is powerful enough to move the global market. Golden was not merely a solo debut, it was a declaration. Jungkook presented himself with a mature, bold identity, fully aware of his global image. Powerful vocals, meticulously curated visuals, and a musical approach that felt unmistakably international led many observers to see Jungkook not just as a BTS member, but as an independent brand that happens to exist within the biggest group in the world. Thus, when the reunion tour was announced, the implicit question emerged: how would a brand of that magnitude be positioned within a group format? ARMY's reaction to this question is layered and deeply emotional. On one hand, there is immense pride in seeing Jungkook reach a level rarely matched even outside of K-pop. On the other, there is a difficult-to-voice concern: the fear that excessive focus on one member could shift the balance that has long been BTS's greatest strength. This unease is not always stated outright, but it can be felt in comments questioning the portion, the focus, and the narrative of the upcoming tour. International media, while not directly addressing this speculation, has indirectly reinforced it. Coverage of BTS's comeback often mentions Jungkook specifically, highlighting his vocals, stage charisma, and global appeal. Retrospective articles about BTS's post-military evolution almost always position Jungkook as a key figure in maintaining the group's relevance in the international market. All of this adds fuel to the speculative fire already burning among fans. Notably, Bigot Music has chosen to remain silent. There has been no clarification, no firm statement asserting that the 2026 tour is purely about the group, and no attempt to suppress the narrative that continues to grow. In the entertainment industry, silence often speaks louder than denial. Is this quiet a strategy to preserve mystery, or a sign that the direction ARMY is discussing is not entirely off the mark? Meanwhile, the countdown to January 14, 2026 continues. The date promised as the moment when tour details will be revealed is now seen not merely as a logistical announcement, but as a potential answer to collective unease. Will the list of cities and dates be accompanied by a tour concept that reinforces unity? Or will there be indications of a new format that allows greater space for Jungkook's individual exploration? Every possibility feels equally tense in Indonesia. This mix of excitement and anxiety is especially palpable. Social media is filled with discussions, translations of international commentary, and lengthy analyses dissecting the meaning of a single video clip. For Indonesian ARMY, BTS is not just an idol group, but part of an emotional journey spanning more than a decade. It is therefore natural that even the smallest change feels personal. Jungkook, long seen as the youngest brother who grew up alongside fans, now stands as an adult figure with immense power. And that power comes with consequences. Are ARMY being overly sensitive? Or are they, in fact, reading signs that were intentionally left behind? This question continues to circulate without a definitive answer. Yet one thing is undeniable: that 35-second video has changed the way people wait for the 2026 tour. It has shifted the focus from when and where to who will dominate and how. And as expectations begin to construct their own narrative, the pressure on Jungkook intensifies. Every future appearance will be read not merely as entertainment, but as a statement. Every outfit choice, choreography decision, and solo vocal moment will be weighed as evidence either supporting or refuting the notion of a disguised solo concert. This burden is not new for Jungkook, but on the scale of a post-military world tour, its intensity may surpass anything he has experienced before. In the end, all of this unease converges on one undeniable reality: Jungkook is no longer merely a part of BTS, but also a reflection of the changing landscape of the global music industry itself. When ARMY panics, what they are truly feeling is not just fear of a disguised solo concert, but uncertainty in facing a new phase that can no longer be predicted using old patterns. BTS has long been built upon a narrative of togetherness that borders on the sacred, yet time, age, experience, and individual power have gradually shifted that balance towards something far more complex. This is where panic transforms into reflection. Many fans are beginning to realize that the notion of a solo concert is not a threat, but a logical consequence of Jungkook's journey. After military service, after a massively successful solo album, after ever-growing global recognition, it is impossible to expect Jungkook to return to the stage with the same intensity he had a decade ago. He is no longer the magne who simply follows the current, but a central figure whose presence alone can alter the atmosphere of an entire stadium. A sharper question then emerges. Does Jungkook's dominance signal the fading of BTS as a group, or does it instead prove that BTS has produced individuals too significant to be ignored? From an industry perspective, this is not a sign of fracture, but of maturity. Many legendary groups around the world reach a stage where individual and collective identities run side by side, mutually reinforcing and simultaneously challenging one another. Big Music's silence up to this moment adds another dramatic layer to the weight. There has been no denial, no clarification, as if the public is being left to wrestle with their own interpretations. In modern entertainment, this strategy is hardly unfamiliar. Mystery creates conversation, conversation creates expectation, and expectation generates an explosion of attention. If that is the case, then ARMY's panic has, in fact, become part of an unwritten promotional engine. Yet beneath all the analysis and speculation lies a deeply human emotion that is often overlooked: the fear of losing something that has been an emotional home for years. For many ARMY, BTS is not merely a music group, but a life phase, a source of strength during difficult times, and a symbol of togetherness that transcends borders. When the possibility arises that the 2026 stage may feel different, that panic is ultimately an expression of love, love that does not want change to come too quickly. Now, as the announcement of the 2026 World Tour details draws closer, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. Whatever the format may be, the spotlight on Jungkook will not diminish. If he appears dominant, speculation about a disguised solo concert will only intensify. If he holds himself back, the public will wonder what is being deliberately concealed. Jungkook stands in a paradoxical position where every step is a statement and every silence is a message. Thus, the final question is no longer whether this is a disguised solo concert or not. The real question is this: is the world, and especially ARMY, ready to accept Jungkook as he is, an artist who has grown beyond old definitions without abandoning the roots that raised him? When the stage lights finally come on during the 2026 tour, the answer will not arrive in the form of a press clarification, but in one simple moment. The way Jungkook stands on stage, looks out at the audience, and decides how he wants to be remembered in this new era.